Welcome to the Living in Clarity podcast. I'm Coach Ratner. This is Rabbi Palatnik, and today we have a special guest, her husband, Rabbi Palatnik.
Hello, Daniel.
Welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
We've had you here a few other times, and it's been amazing podcasts. And today we're going to talk about the 7 secrets to a passionate marriage. And who's no better to have about marriage than you two? Been teaching marriage for decades all over the world.
And we've been married for decades.
Yes.
We've been fighting for only 36 years. Okay.
So, what's the number one thing you have to think about in having a passionate marriage? Now, I think it's always, you taught me, always focus on why you got married. What's the reason you fell in love with someone?
I would qualify that as like, it's not why you got married, but why you married that person. What are the qualities of that person that, like, why did you marry them? Like, people years into marriages go through ups and downs. Okay. Except ours. Ours is always up. Okay.
Yeah.
But every marriage goes through ups and downs. Even Michelle Obama said, sometimes you can have a bad decade.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you hang in there, one of the ways to hang in there, because if you hang in there, you can build and not only come out of a down, but come even greater up. So one of the ways to do it is really taught by our rabbi. He says, like, you make a list of the qualities of why you married that person. Because this is people for like your years in. Why did you marry Alana? Why did you marry me? So when you're going through a down, you look at the list, there's a very good chance it's all still true. They still have those qualities, but life happens and you could forget why you married them.
Now, on that list, can it be something like because he wants to have children, or because she, like, that's not like, that could be with anybody. Does it have to be something specific with that one person?
Yeah, specifically to that person. Like, they are other-centered. They are generous. They have a good sense of humor. They are kind. Those still exist. So the idea that, they want to have children or they want to reproduce, like, I don't know. I don't know if that would be honest.
I know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, specifically, in Hebrew, we would call it the midot, the character traits, not the actions, but the character traits that inspire the action.
Right. So you fall in love with someone. Now, do you think that when people are walking down the aisle after they fall in love, they're walking down the aisle to the chuppah or wherever they're going to get married, they're thinking to themselves, this is the list of things that I have, why I picked this person to marry them. They probably don't do this, do they?
Well, first of all, we're not very into falling in love, this falling in love thing. Maybe my husband wants to.
Oh, falling in love. And now to speak against falling in love, my husband will talk about it. I don't know about that. I'm not going to recommend against that, but you shouldn't make decisions based on an ephemeral passion that can come and go. It should be made on something a little bit heavier when you're deciding to sign a lifetime contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to make it just more than, something that was passing or a feeling that was just for the moment.
Well, how did you know that I was the right one to marry?
How did I know that you were the right one?
Be careful.
Yeah. So,
Now that I've got you on,
I really did. First of all, I was not 22 years old when we got married. So
how old were you?
I was nearly 34, and I had a criteria. I knew the kind of girl that I wanted to marry. We were, dating inside the religious framework. We were set up by mutual friends, and it was for the purpose of meeting somebody to get married. But I knew I wanted to marry somebody that was happy and joyful and optimistic, because basically I have enough misery and pessimism negative for any 8 people. So I don't need more of that in my life. But I wanted that high energy, joy, and optimism, both high energy and joy. And I kind of had, in a sense, somebody that's a people person, somebody that enjoys other people was very important to me. And part of that, of course, were our shared values that we, I was a rabbi at the time, and obviously was going to marry somebody of that Jewish kind of commitment. I don't think I appreciated the deep idealism that my wife had at the time, but you have the commonality of that. And I don't know if I should reveal this. It's a secret. I haven't told Lori. We're friends at this point. I feel I can be honest with, the people that are watching in. So I felt that I could not live in peace with somebody. I can be a little bit moody,
Yeah.
a little bit passing kind of things like that. And I didn't want to marry a girl that was either going to be freaked out by it or was going to be incredibly sensitive to it. That was just, it's not a negative quality in the other person, just something that might make it difficult to be living with me. That's it.
So you had
I had an
clarity.
objective. I had an objective.
Objective criteria. Do you hear?
Yeah.
What people are waiting is like, I'm going to meet somebody, whatever, and like, I'll know them when I see them. Okay. Well, 50% divorce rate. Good luck.
So you got married. You were already observant religiously.
Yeah.
I was not. So if you asked me who I want to marry, I would have said hot and funny, like good looking and funny. Like I didn't have any other criteria.
Absolutely. You have to be attracted to the girl.
Right.
You absolutely positively.
So-
the greatest rabbis with the longest white beards who are 90 years old. I asked the great Rav. He said, young men come to me and ask me for advice. Should I marry this girl? You know what he told me? I go, how do you know how to give them advice? He goes, the first thing I say to the young man, is she pretty? You're attracted? And if he doesn't turn a little bit of purple, it's not a good match.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I look back at my, I'm very blessed to have been married for 21 years now, almost 22. And it's so funny because like you're walking down the aisle to the chuppah and you think, I'm in love with this girl. Like this is the best love everyone's ever going to feel. And the love I have now compared to 21 years ago doesn't even come close. It's not even close. I mean, there's a little bit.
What do you mean? It was so intense at the beginning?
No, it's better now.
No, really?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Oh,
So what brought a deeper, more profound love? all these years later?
well, my wife is very down to earth. She has her faults and stuff, but she's very down to earth. And one of the things I really love about my wife is that she gets my sense of humor. And I never would have thought about that in a million years. My list of traits I need in a spouse is that it must get my sense of humor. Like, can you imagine? Because I'm pretty funny. I mean, not that funny. Sometimes I can be funny. And it's nice if they laugh at your jokes. They understand your nuances.
Yeah.
That deeper side of me.
Yeah.
And he does.
Oh, that's very beautiful.
I want to propose also that not only you've gotten to know her and she gets but you could have seen that when you were dating, like that she gets your jokes. She laughed at your jokes. Probably while you were dating, you probably were a little bit funny. But all these years later, and
when you were dating, you were funny. Not the old guy you are now.
I wore the glasses with the funny nose and mustache. That's what
I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's like you again, you can't compare the love I have for my husband now to the love I had for him on our wedding day. But like everything we've been through together, the giving, the more knowledge, you're saying you find different sides of them, different layers of them. My husband is complicated, and that's good for me because it's never boring. It's like there's always another layer to get to.
And my wife is simple. That's me.
So why do people stop focusing on why they got married in the first? Why is it that you have kids and you're going to, of course, who divorces their kids? But I guess it happens not very often. But there are things about your kids you don't like. You focus on the great qualities of your kids. But why is it that we divorce our spouse, we have unhappy marriages, yet we never divorce our kids?
So I'm just going to speak from the women's side. First of all, one of the mistakes that women make is that everything's amazing and you're a couple and you're married and passion and love and setting up your house and life. And then you get pregnant and then you have your first kid. And then your husband, in terms of your attention and focus, gets bumped down the totem pole. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Well, my kids need me. So your husband needs you too. My theory is that they need us more than we need them. Sorry, guys, we love you. But I believe that for men, we are the deepest. Your wife is the deepest, most emotional relationship of your life, most connecting. For a woman, she can have an emotional connecting relationship with the woman behind her at Costco by the time they check out.
Yes.
So what's my evidence? People have been married for decades. Okay. The woman dies. What does the husband do?
Gets married again.
He gets remarried in 5 seconds. The women are lining up to marry this guy.
Sure.
He can't be alone. What does the woman do if the husband dies?
Doesn't marry.
She goes on cruises with her girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Like she has deep, emotional, fulfilling relationships outside of that. And for a man, really, what does the guy talk to guys about?
Sports.
What else?
Money?
politics, money, business. Okay.
Yeah. Well, those are the things that are important in
Those are the most fulfilling things in
I
life.
don't talk to my wife about those at all.
See, but who do you talk to your feelings about?
what?
What feelings?
What?
What feelings? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
an idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
you guys know.
Yeah.
When you are going to talk about your feelings or about your thoughts and your insights, like it's with your wife.
Share with your wife, right?
Your wife. You need us. We can share our thoughts and feelings with many people.
Yes,
Okay.
you can.
We have
Yeah.
girlfriends. You guys are talking about very surface things with most guys. I think that more in the observant Jewish world, like there's deeper things going on, which is very beautiful. It brings that out in you. But it's a natural thing for women to bond and to have these deep relationships. So when I tell women, like you're bumping your husband down the totem pole, you're having kid after kid after kid. And yes, they need you in a practical way. Like they need you to clothe them and bathe them and make them grilled cheese for lunch.
Yeah, not the husbands.
The husband, you think like, oh, he's self-sufficient, but he on a very deep, profound level needs you.
Yeah, so this is why you'll see, I think, couples, when the kids leave the house, they're staring at each other in the kitchen, wondering why they got married in the first place, because their purpose for the marriage left the house.
There's something there. I think that the world is calling it gray divorce. And some people, I used to call it the empty nest syndrome.
Okay.
Whereas the kids are the thing that binds you, the most meaningful thing. And kids are a meaningful part of our life. We have 5 kids. We love them like crazy.
Grandkids.
And we have grandkids. But if you give and give and give to your kids, and you're a success if they grow up and leave you.
Yes.
And sometimes if it's all about the kids and you turn to each other, and once the kids are gone, like you didn't invest in this relationship.
I'd like to speak up for the other side now. All right. If I can disagree with the editorial policy. You originally asked, people, they fall out of love, etc., like that. I talk to men. I'm a rabbi. Sometimes people ask me, they ask advice, and I tell guys, this idea that you have feelings and you want to share them and get in touch with them and, be like that kind of connection. Most of you are pretty shallow. Let's face it. This is not happening. It's not happening. And even when you try, you're just reading somebody else's script. So I don't think that's necessarily where a lot of men are going. I like sports. Yeah, I like sports. I mean, let's not make fun of the important things in life. But when it comes to a marriage and it comes to relationship, men are being told, I have to make this emotional connection. I have to be whatever the kind of a husband.
At least pretend to make the emotional connection.
No, not you. I don't mean to pretend. If you're actually caring, you're caring. So what I would tell a man, I teach it over the importance that, I mean, you're going to laugh when I say this, but you should pay attention to your wife. People go, what do you mean I should pay attention? That I'm not getting you into your own deep feelings. You don't know what your own deep feelings are, let alone you're going to share them with somebody. But you come home, you're talking to your wife. You should be interested in your wife. She has a whole life. And shockingly to a lot of men, I tell them that she wants to share her life with you. And you should be interested in your wife. I tell them when you come home, you should ask your wife, how is she feeling? And you know what men complain to me? If I ask her that, she's going to talk for 15 or 20 minutes.
I know, it's hard.
Yeah.
Sure.
I go, that's called a good marriage, my friend. That's called a good marriage. That means your wife has confidence in you. She loves you and she wants to share her life with you. And she really doesn't want to hear about all the stupid traffic you had to fight to get home and the crazy customers that you were dealing with and all the nonsense you dealt with at work. She wants to share things with you. So you should listen. You should be asking her these things. And then when you mature and you're more of a man, yeah, and you've progressed in marriage, then you're actually listening to what she says. You're not doing your email. I know you're a great multitasker, but you're not doing your email. You're not doing the remote control. And then graduate level, again, beyond most of the people that are going to be able to understand this, you actually listen and you care and you have empathy. You don't have to solve your wife's problems. If your wife wanted to solve her problems, you are among the last people she would ask. You have a low emotional IQ. She has a sister that she talks to. She has a mother that she talks to. She has two best friends that she talks to. So she's not looking to you to solve her problems. You don't know anything, but she does want to share with you. And if you should be interested, you should be interested and caring and listening. And for most men, well, that would be quite an improvement to where most of us are at.
First of all, I want to say your husband is brilliant, unbelievable.
I tell her that all the time.
I know.
Yeah.
He's the best.
That one thing you taught me, and I live with this today, and I came up with an acronym for this concept you taught me. You
Yeah.
the acronym that there's certain things that a man should tell his wife, and certain things she didn't. When I first got married, I'd be working all day in the coin business, doing deals, and big deals sometimes. I come home, be proud of myself. Look at me, look what I did. I go to my wife. I go, Ilana, look what I did today. I did this deal for this, made this much money on this deal, and this coin deal, and this guy I talked to. I'm going to fly here tomorrow. And I was all excited. And after a while, like, what I learned for you, like, she doesn't really care about my deals in the coin business, right? She really doesn't. And then when I came down with the lung cancer, you gave me a very, very important clue that I don't have to share everything with her. That my job as a husband is to bring happiness and inspiration to the family, and that when you share every little nuance of, oh, this hurts here, that like, it's okay to be in pain, but like certain things you just want to share. There's like, it used to be like, oh, I hurt my toe, can you give me some, like those things you just don't do anymore. Make sure that when your wife talks to you, now you might not agree with me, that it's a place of happiness, and she gonna desire to want to talk to you because she feels good talking to you.
I think it's a place of emotional security. Like, everybody, like, women want their husband to be their heroes. Like, they really do. They want them to champion, the world for them, to protect them, to, not that we're like, like I said, like the guy, your husband dies after decades and you go on cruises with your girlfriends. We're like, I can handle things. I could do things, but you want a man that women still want that man to be the hero.
Yeah. I didn't mention the acronym. The word is SLIM, because who doesn't want to be slim? It
Yeah.
stands for sometimes less is more.
I thought my wife enjoyed my complaining. You don't complaining when I'm fetching? Yeah. Okay. I just learned something now. Keep my complaints and my misery and my unhappiness. You can keep it down.
No, yeah.
So once in a while.
So again, it's like when you say less is more, a woman does want her husband to share with her. Yeah, but you're right. Like, not overly so.
Right.
Because you really, you so need him to be that guy out there, on the white horse and slaying dragons for you.
Yeah, I want to be the rock to my wife. So in order to do that, I don't have to show every complaint that I have in the world, or I had this bad conversation. Some things I share and some things I don't. Now I filter what I share with my wife.
Okay. Well, I'm going to come back. You had an original question, people falling out of love,
yes,
or the things going down. I think men, we lose the idea that I want to be generous and I want to be giving. And that is so important in marriage, that it's not what I am getting out of it, but an important part of the pleasure in marriage for a man is to be a giver. And when you are generous and when you are caring, that is a pleasure. That is a pleasure to be doing that. I remember years ago, I had a couple, they were engaged, they're about to get married. And I asked the young man, they're in their late 20s. I go, if her, the young woman in front of, if she's happy, are you happy? He goes, yeah, I'm happy. I go, she's very happy. Are you very happy? He goes, I'm very happy. I go, she's talking to her mother on the phone and says, I'm so happy because this young man that I'm marrying. How do you think? He goes, I'm fantastic. All right. So I told them, we have the secret of marriage here. I looked at the young woman. I said to her, your job is to be happy. And I said to the young man, your job is to make her happy. All right. And you'll both be happy. Because he said, I'm happy if she's happy. So she should work on being happy. And he should be focused on giving. Now, I know the question's going to be, well, can you really make somebody else happy like that? And for sure, people do have a responsibility for their own happiness. But in a marriage, going both ways, you're going to have a profound effect on your spouse. And there's a lot of things, certainly, that a man can do that provides his wife with the nutrients in her emotional and spiritual life that she can be happy. And it's really an obligation, a responsibility for the man. But when I say responsibility, you'll get great pleasure from it. Your wife is happy. You're happy. Really, some cliches are actually true.
Yeah.
I really, we have kids who have gotten married. So when my boys were getting married, I told them straight up, I said, I'm on the girl side. I just want to tell you, I love you, but when we're planning the wedding or even in your marriage, I'm always on her side. Why? And they're looking at me like, what? And why? I said, because what do I want for you, my son? I want you to be happy. Happy wife, happy life. If she's happy, you're happy. So my job, okay, is to be on her side to make sure she's happy. Because if she's happy, you're happy. You're happy, I'm happy. Got it?
Yes.
So whether it's planning the wedding, like what they would say, like, I don't know, should we do this? Should we have it here? Should we have this many people? Should we have this band? And I'd always say, what does she want? What does she want? And they go, well, she wants this. I'm like, that's what I want too.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what's going on? Like, she's happy. That makes her happy. She's happy. You're happy. You're happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy.
Plus, when you look back at your life and you've been married, for dozens of years.
Yeah, we're really old.
Yeah, we're really old. Yeah, you look back at all these things that you thought, like, I need to have this, and they're wrong, or they should. When you give it to the wife, let her be happy. It's all meaningless. All the stuff like I think was so important in my life. Now the most important thing for me is to make sure that my wife is happy.
We ask a guy sometimes. Guys, they don't get it for so long and to struggle. You wish you could just hand them a manual when on the first day of their. Would you rather be happy or right?
Yes, actually, this is a very important concept. Is that sometimes you have to admit you are wrong in order to be right. Like it's part of life. It's like, you can fight with your spouse. I can fight with my wife, and I know I'm right. And she eventually admits, okay, you won after a day or two. Did I win?
You won the battle, but you lost the war.
Correct. So I have a saying that sometimes you have to be wrong in order to be right. That you have to give in, even though you're right, and let them win the battle. Because it's just, not everyone's going to agree with me, I'm sure. But I think that's a very important part of having a happy relationship.
There's always a choice in every conflict between peace, justice, and truth.
Yes.
When it comes to your family, you want to go for peace. And that's really the burden is on the man, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is of shalom, of peace, that's what you want to be reaching for. The fact that you were right in the world of truth or the word, it doesn't matter.
You're not fighting a conglomerate that put poison in the water and got your kids sick.
Yeah.
That you want justice and truth. Those things.
Yeah.
Or you got an accident and you got hurt. You want really, you don't care about the truth. You just want money at that point in time. You don't care if they don't admit they're wrong in the car accident. So it depends on the situation. But you're right. With your spouse and your family, peace is you don't have to be right and you don't have to be. It's all about peace.
I'd like to bring up another one.
Yes.
Is appreciation. So I'm hesitant to do this in front of my wife. Maybe I'm not so good at this, but I would tell it to men, to guys that are struggling in a marriage. I would tell them, do as I say, not as I do. And you should be thanking your wife regularly, every day at the minimum, for things that she does for you. That you might think, oh, well, I have a job, or I do this, or I do more for her than she does for me. That's called taking your marriage for granted, taking your wife for granted. It should be that you're always looking for things that you can thank your wife what she's done for you. It could be her role as a mother, as a wife. It can be just the 1001 kindnesses.
We can start here.
Yeah.
I don't think you've thanked me today. So you can start.
Yeah. So I enjoyed a very good lunch today that my wife put together. And I had an incredible Shabbat that my wife invited all the guests and my wife made all the food and it was just wonderful. Though, but again, I don't want it to be too one way because like we had all these guests over and then we served coffee and I plugged in the hot water heater for the coffee.
Yeah.
No, you're laughing, but I really
That's
did.
a lot of work.
No, I really did. No. It's not just plugging it in. I had to fill up bring it to the sink
Yeah.
and fill it up and it's a heavy one and I had to carry it over there.
Take
But-
it out of the closet.
Yeah. You got it all. You've got it all. But I don't like to toot my own horn like that. But my wife did make my wife did make the chicken, the pot roast, and all the vegetables. And she knows that I love salad, and she knows I love to have it at the beginning of the meal, and picking out the wine, and really the fact that we had all the guests and made it all. Men are a pretty miserable bunch when they're by themselves, aren't they?
Yeah.
So thank you, dearest. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So admitting you're wrong in order to be right in the relationship, that sometimes takes getting deep for a guy. Because like guys, we have egos. We think we're right. We think we run the world sometimes. How does a guy learn to do that? How does a guy learn to say, I just need to agree with my wife, even though I know she's wrong, or I don't agree with
Listen,
her?
if I'm wrong, I don't want him to go along if I'm wrong. I want him to say it in the nicest way or show me in the nicest way.
I don't believe her.
No, because my husband, I'm not going to say he's the best in the world, but he's very, very good at showing people if they're making a mistake in a nice way like that keeps their perhaps their ego or their sense of self intact. Because if you're making a mistake, you want somebody to point it out. But I just want to say that, when we talk about, attention, we talked about attention, we talked about appreciation, and we can all raise the bar in these areas, but then there's also affection. So when should a man speak in affectionate tones and in a kind way to his wife?
When should that be? How often should that be?
I would have to say always.
Yes, always.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you wonder, like, oh, am I supposed to be doing this now or this now? Like you never have to wonder when to speak to your wife, even if she's making a mistake, even if she's flipping out, even if she's not using affectionate tone.
Yeah.
When should a husband speak affectionately and patiently and lovingly to his wife?
All
Always.
the time.
This is going to get back a little bit to the idea of sometimes being wrong or right. That you said you don't want your husband to agree with you if you're wrong, but he has to say it in a way that he doesn't raise his voice in an affectionate way. So if he's upset, he shouldn't raise his voice, and he has to do it in a nuanced kind of way in order to show that he's right.
And also, my husband does have a rule, and maybe he should share.
Oh, the 24-hour rule.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to share some advice for men. I sometimes follow it myself even. That's how good it is. For most married men, for all married men, you had the experience. You've had it.
Yes.
Where your wife says something, which is an outrage. And it is not only deserving of your anger, but it's an insult to you. And it's an insult to men all around the world if they would know about it. So you're not just standing up for your own honor, but I've had this. I'm standing up for the honor of men all over the world.
It happened twice in 36 years.
Anyhow, so when you have anger like that, I tell an audience that before you vent to your wife, you should wait 24 hours before you talk to her about it. And I have it in the audience. I go, gentlemen, with that kind of provocation, can you wait 24 hours before you tell her about it?
Not a chance.
Not a chance. Why not?
Because I'm going to forget in 24 hours.
And the men are stone silent. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, I would forget too. The women are like, was that a joke? Or I don't understand. Because the men really mean it. The thing that made you so angry, come on, grow up. You don't even remember it. You really don't even remember it 24 hours later. 99% of the time.
You should write it down so you don't forget.
Yeah, 99% of the time you don't remember it later on. And that 1% that you actually do remember, so you'll be calmer one day later. You can talk it over in a respectful way, or maybe it's something that you can let go, that it's appropriate to let go if it's not worthy. It was not in, consonant with your wife's character, etc.
Like she burnt the chicken.
whatever the thing is, every guy has their own ridiculous thing that, gets
Yeah.
them upset like that. But you don't have to address everything right on the moment. That's all. But people, they should get a perspective. If I waited 24 hours, I would forget it. Maybe it's worth forgetting.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah, I know. I have to admit, I followed this rule recently in the last year or two with my wife. I was upset about something, but I didn't. I was kind of a jerk. Like I was not nice to her that 24-hour period, and I finally.
Oh, you waited 24 hours and was a jerk to her.
No, not a
24
jerk, but like
hours.
I was just not as nice as I could have been
Yeah.
as a person.
Uh-huh.
And I think we have to clarify that if you're upset about something, you still have to be nice to your wife. But it's hard when you're upset. Sometimes I have to tell. I guess this is the negative of what you're saying. Sometimes you're so upset, it's hard to not be upset with her, and like maybe the cold soul. The cold soldier.
Yeah.
Cold
Shoulder.
shoulder. I can't say
Yeah.
the word. So it's a nuanced thing that sometimes you still have to like. You're mad at her still. You're trying to wait, but it's hard not to be mad. I know it's not so easy.
There is something. Can I just say the obvious?
Yeah.
Grow up. I'm sorry, but just you get to a point. The woman that you live with for decades, who had the children, who's done 29 million plus favors and kindnesses for you and counting, the meter is moving all the time, what she's doing for you. So she did this, she did that. My wife is looking at me through the side. Like, yeah, I can't wait till we get home now. Yeah. But there is a thing of just grow up and let it go.
Yeah.
And be a grown up. There's a part of life like that.
So we've talked about paying attention to your spouse. We've talked about showing affection, and even when you speak. We've talked about appreciation, always thanking your wife and your husband. And I have another one I've added to your repertoire, and I call it awareness. And the reason why I added awareness, and it's actually going to be in my next book coming out soon on infinite marriage, is because it all started when I was walking with my family to the Shuk here in Jerusalem. And I was talking to one of my daughters, and if you've been in Jerusalem, the sidewalks aren't too wide here, so you can't like walk as a family like in group.
Right.
So I was talking to my daughter, and next thing I know, that my wife is a block or two behind me, and she said, you have to add a fourth A to your attention, affection, appreciation. I said, what is that? She goes, awareness. You must be aware of your wife at all times.
Wow. I walk and she's 2 blocks behind me. I think nothing of it. I've got something new now.
I think the awareness also has to do with her needs. And I'm talking from a guy's point of view. She's aware of my needs. I remember when I was complaining about my socks. I can't find my socks. They have holes in them. Next thing I know, Amazon's knocking at my front door with a bag of socks because she knew I needed socks. She was aware of my needs and she took care of them for me. And for me, that was like, wow, that's pretty good of a wife. I mean, that's pretty good. Like I don't like get it myself. She thought about it, and I try to be aware of her needs also.
What? So you think about her and you try to intuit what she would want or what she needs.
Not what she's asking for, but
not what she's asking. You intuit what she needs, and then you go about taking. I got to write this down.
Yeah. So like, our floor is a little dirty, so I better get her a better vacuum cleaner. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a beautiful story about my husband in this. So we were living in Rockville, Maryland.
Yes.
Many years ago. And the offices of the organization I work for, it's called Momentum, moved to Executive Boulevard, which we realized, I said to my husband, oh my gosh, we have a beautiful backyard. There's a little ravine.
Yes.
And then there's an incline, and there's Executive Boulevard.
Stream there also, a stream.
Yeah, that's a ravine, like stream, like maybe Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this little creek, a creek.
Yeah,
a creek.
Valley of the creek.
So a little creek, little valley of the creek. So that our backyard goes down. There's a creek. It goes up, and there's Executive Boulevard.
I know.
I said to my husband, "Oh my God!" But there's woods.
It's very. But
so I said,
I'm going to specify that it's very heavily wooded.
Yeah,
you cannot just walk through it.
So I said to my husband, if I had a path, I don't have to like walk all the way around or take a car at all. I could literally like go over. So then I went to Israel, leading a trip of a Momentum trip to Israel of women. And I came back, and my husband had made with slabs of stone, had made and created a path through the woods and built up rocks over the creek so that I could go back and forth.
Now that is cool.
Wow.
That's very impressive.
Wow.
No, it was so beautiful.
That's awareness. That's why it's such a big.
I want to say to the guys, you need to build a path for your wife, depending upon what her needs are and what. So what was he doing? He was listening. He heard it. He listened to the needs, and then he acted upon it. So there is in Judaism, there's a term. It's called chesed, which means loving kindness.
Yes.
So what is loving kindness? If I drop flowers at your house, is that loving kindness?
Probably not. No.
No, but it's nice.
Yes.
It's a nice thing to do. But if I heard, Daniel, you're having a hard week, or Alana's, feeling down, or you guys were struggling with something this week, and then I drop flowers at your house.
That's loving
They're about-
kindness.
So, because loving kindness is not what I feel like doing. You have a need and I want to fulfill it. So that should be the tone of the home, that we are all people of chesed, of loving kindness. We should be listening for people's needs. You have a need and I want to fulfill it.
Because the spouse doesn't always ask to have those needs fulfilled. It's not like I really need some new socks, or I really like to have a salad for lunch. Or you don't shout out those needs or ask for them. And the job of the spouse is to listen and hear the nuances.
That's the awareness. That's
the awareness is to listen, understand what their needs are. Because listen, anyone can get married. As we know, 60% of the marriages get divorced, and the ones that aren't divorced, half of them probably are unhappy. So like anyone can get married. But if you want to have what I call a passionate, loving relationship, you have to be aware of the needs of your spouse and do something about it.
I'd like to say a new thought on this.
Okay, let's go.
There's an old stereotype, we've all heard it, that the man is the patriarch, the melech, the king of the home.
Yes.
And in traditional homes. And I would just like to say and share with people, it is 100% completely true. The man is the king of the home. But you have to understand, what is a king? For a Jewish man, you look in the writings of Maimonides, the Rambam, and he gives a very clear definition. A king is someone that is completely dedicated. How do I bring out the potential of the citizenry? How do I do kindness? How do I create peace? How do I create an environment where all the citizens can flourish, they can flower, they get benefit? A king, he continues, does not raise his voice, because you lose your dignity as a king when you're raising your voice. He always maintains his dignity, and it continues on. He has mercy and kindness for all. The Rambam, Maimonides, says, you are really, truly the servant to bring out the best in everyone around you. What the king does for the kingdom is what a man should do for his wife, for his family, to be kind, to be bringing out the best in everyone around him. And that's what brings out the best in you, the man. Get connected to that.
So it's a lot different than when you think of the king in modern day movies, or the king
Off with your head.
Off with your head. Or it's a different, when you say the word king, you have to define your terms, what the king means, right?
The king in Jewish terminology and Jewish tradition is the symbol of chesed, the symbol of kindness.
Wow.
He's all giving.
Wow. That's amazing. That's an amazing idea when you say, oh, my husband's not the king, I'm the king. It's really, you have to inspire your family. Your job is to inspire.
And to give and to provide and maintain shalom, maintain peace in the house.
It just seems like to me that every man who's about to get married should meet with you.
Absolutely.
And they should be lined up.
I have to tell you that, my husband's a rabbi. He marries people. He varies people. So when he's going to be marrying a couple, and he meets with the guy, and I usually meet with the girl, and the girl will say to me after a couple of sessions with my husband, I don't know what your husband is saying to my fiance, but it's good.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right.
Very good.
And I always tell people I'm not easy, but we have a very happy marriage. So whatever my husband's doing
let's discuss something else, because I don't want to sweep it under the proverbial rug that divorce sometimes is necessary, but it doesn't need to be 60%. It just doesn't need to be. So what kind of work should people put in order to avoid this? Like, are people willing to put in the hard work it does? Because people get into arguments, so there's conflict. And it takes work to work through that conflict. It takes a coach or a therapist or a rabbi or rebbitzin to help people. What kind of work do they need to put in? How painful does it need to be in order to work? The only reason I'm saying this is because I know, I've written my first book was on dating, my second book was marriage, and no one buys my marriage book. No one does. By the way, it's free on coachratner.com. Both books are free to download, or you can buy them off Amazon. And under Daniel Ratner. And the reason why is because I think that if you're in a great marriage, you don't feel like you need a marriage book. And if you're in a bad marriage, that it's too painful to read about. So how much pain should someone be in when they want to work out their problems?
Marriage is a lot of work, and it's worth it. I think it's just accepting that this is not a romantic comedy. This is not like a romance novel. Marriage, good relationships, whether it's marriage or children or family, takes effort and work.
Yeah.
And with that comes some pain. But what are you going to focus on? The pain or the pleasure? We have somebody we know. She's married to a rabbi. She's got 7 children. I remember the story that she says when some people ask her, like, how many kids do you have? She says 7. They go, oh, that's a lot of diapers. Okay. They focus on the most stinky negative thing. Okay. No, what about that's a lot of love? That's a lot of affection. That's a lot of giggles. That's a lot of joy. That's a lot of snuggles. Got it?
Yes.
So what we do, so when you're in the work, there is going to be pain, there's going to be pleasure, but what are you going to focus on?
Sure. Yeah. So I do want to say that when most people get engaged, they get an engagement, man proposes, and they call their in-laws or their parents. What do they do for the next 3 to 6 months generally? What is the main thing they're doing for 3 to 6 months after the engagement?
Planning their wedding.
But how long does the average wedding last?
Well,
4 or 5 hours.
5 hours max, right?
Yeah.
You guys are like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
I know. I've been waiting.
When are we leaving? That's what my husband says.
Yeah.
My husband says, when are we leaving?
You should write a book called like the 30-minute wedding or something, because it's crazy how long weddings are. Anyway, they're planning the wedding day. It's 5 hours. Like, what should they be planning? They should be planning for the rest of their life. The day they get married is when the hard work starts.
Rabbi Mitch Mendel of Toronto always said, if only people spend as much time planning their marriages as they do their weddings, they'd be a lot better off.
I know, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? So I think sometimes marriages, when they're going through struggles, it's painful to work on them. But as one of your leaders, Adrian Gold, gives a fantastic analogy about how much pain do you have to go through in order to fix a marriage. And she uses the analogy of, imagine you get into an accident and you hurt your leg. And you go to the hospital and the doctor says, listen, we can save the leg, but it's going to take many surgeries, many years of physical therapy. But we have, 60, 70% chance we can save the leg. It might take a few years. It's going to be very painful and a lot of work. And what are you going to make the decision? You're going to say, or we can cut the leg off and
be done with it.
And be out here tomorrow afternoon. Right? Go to the beach.
I'm holding on to the leg.
You're holding on to the leg, right?
Yeah.
Most people are holding on to the leg. And that's the pain. And that's the amount of effort it takes. Every marriage is going to go through struggles. And if you're not prepared to put in the effort and realize it's going to be painful, but if you keep your eye, as you say, on the pleasure of that relationship, you'll be willing to go through the pain. And it's going to take pain. It's only when you've tried for years and years and years, and it's getting more painful and more painful, when you said, you know what? It's time to cut the leg off. That's when it's time to get a divorce. I think you use the analogy of your arm. I think you use the arm analogy.
No, it's about amputation. Like, your hand hurts. Do you cut it off? No, it really hurts. Do you cut it off? You can't sleep at night. It hurts so much. You cut it off? No. But when it's turning green and it's going up your arm, you cut it off.
Right.
When it's killing you. Do you get divorced when marriage is hard? No. It's really hard. No. You can't sleep at night. It's so hard. No. But when it's killing you, yes. Now, I do want to say that when do you get help? Because you're saying to reach out, to get help, to get back on track. Marriages go through ups and downs. Don't wait for a crisis before you get help. When it's starting to get off track, get help and get it back on track. Don't wait for a crisis, because sometimes if you wait for a crisis, things are so bad, it's very hard to put it back together.
I always say this a lot. Is like, when do people seek out help in their relationships? Only when they're in trouble. No one's going to, you said you meet with people before they get married, but it should be a requirement, not just for religious, anyone in the world. It should be like a government requirement. I remember We have a
Yeah, because divorce is very expensive
Yeah.
for the country, for the
country.
world.
I remember Rabbi Stephen Bars in Rockville, Maryland. He got a grant from the U.S. government to run marriage seminars because it is a problem in society. And the U.S. government should really say, or many governments say, you know what? Before you get married, you have to take this is actually something you should apply for grants to teach marriage classes to people in groups through Zoom, through the internet. Before they get married, they have to pass a series of tests, and they have to prove
Wow.
themselves that they are capable to being married. Because no, there's anyone can take.
You have to go to the DMV for permission. Are you marriageable material?
driver's license. You have to pass tests, and you have the driving test and written test.
Yeah.
Right. To have a baby, there is no test. You go to the hospital, they hand you a baby, like, where's the instruction manual? The only thing they require is a car seat. That's it.
So I have to tell you, years ago, one of our kids was going through a little bit of a hard time, and somebody suggested we should get a dog.
Yeah.
Dog, it'll be emotionally healthy and it'll
Yeah.
be good and comforting. The last thing my husband wants is a
A
dog.
dog.
Yeah.
Okay. We have 5 kids. I travel for my work. The last thing he wants is a dog to take care of. So we plotted behind my husband's back. Okay. Like the kids, like we're going to get a dog. Okay. Yes. And we figured if we're going to get a dog, let's get a rescue dog.
Yeah.
Like, this really happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're all on my bed and we're going on these sites, like these rescue sites. And of course you start falling in love with these little dogs and everything. And you pick out a dog and then you have to apply. I don't know anybody here who has gone through this, but at least a few years ago in the United States, this is what it was. Pages and pages and pages online of an application. Like, have you ever had a dog before? Have you ever had an animal? Do you work? Do you have a fenced in yard? What kind of neighbors do you have? What kind of neighborhood do you work in? Like, do you have like a criminal history? Tons of things you have to fill out. Okay.
FBI.
Okay. So then if you get past the application, they said, then they send somebody to your home to interview you and your neighbors. Okay. Are you the type of home that you could take this dog? Okay. We were, my husband's happy, but we were rejected time after time. Why? Because I'm not home all day, because we don't have a fenced yard, because we never had a dog as a family, even though I grew up with a dog and my husband grew up with a dog when we were kids. Rejected time and time again. Listen to the insanity of our society. They let me leave the hospital 5 times with a human being, and I just had to show them a car seat, and they wouldn't give me a dog that somebody threw away.
Well, count me as a libertarian, everybody. I'm okay if you get married without a government bureaucrat cross-examining you, but it's good for you. It is good to learn about things. Anything that's important in life, we want to learn about it.
Yeah.
And then we just figure marriage, it'll be taken care of automatically.
It doesn't. And the thing is, you should not wait until there's a problem in your relationship before you seek help and guidance.
So I have to tell you that I have a very good friend, and she grew up, her parents got divorced. She married a guy, same thing. His parents were divorced. She knew that the chance of them making it, according to the data studies, is low.
Very low.
There's a very good chance they're not going to make it. So what did she do? From the beginning, she says, we will get every other week, okay, or monthly, or things are a little bit unsteady, weekly counseling, just like you do your laundry.
Yes.
Okay. We are making sure we're cleaning up our relationship, constantly recalibrating. Why? Because the odds are against us. So we're going to up the odds.
Right.
And I do want to say, I'm sorry, that in my experience, and maybe I just had a bad experience, but most marriage counselors that I know, who I refer people to and I try to have for people, most marriage counselors do more harm than good.
Hey, wow.
The right marriage counselor will save your marriage, but a lot of people go into become therapists and counselors. Why?
Because they're crazy themselves.
Because they had a lot of trauma and
Right.
things like this, and sometimes it inspires them.
Yes.
Most of the bestsellers on marriage on the New York Times bestseller list are written by people who were married several times.
Yes.
So they got a lot of experience.
Yeah.
I want to learn marriage from somebody who's been married for 50 years and hung in there and has wisdom to teach me.
Yeah. Why is that?
Wow.
It's really funny that the people who, like, you hear people, they're the ones that are having the issue. They go, well, because they're going to say, well, because we've gone through, we've failed a number of times, so we know what not to do, right?
Now, there's something to that. Just
There
because
is-
somebody
there
gets
is-
divorced doesn't mean they can't help
No,
you.
there's
But
something.
if I had a choice between somebody who is happily married Right. If I'm sitting beside somebody on a plane, I'm a seeker of wisdom. Our rabbi always said, "Oh, you should be a seeker of wisdom. You should have your life questions at the tip of your tongue. Why would God bring you wise people if you don't even know what your questions are?" So I have my life wise questions. And so when I sit beside somebody and they say, "Oh, they've been married 40 years," I'm like, "Oh, could you tell me your secret? Like what would you have done differently? How did you get through the teenage years with your kids?" I'm a collector of wisdom. And it says a smart person learns from their mistakes and a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. And I'll ask them, if you could rewind, what would you do differently? What mistakes did you make in your marriage? Or what mistakes did you make raising your kids? I want to learn from your mistakes, not mine.
That's really good, Lori. That's
Wow.
great. Right.
Wow.
So we've gone through a lot today. This has been a very insightful podcast on what it takes to have a passionate marriage.
Yeah.
And
I hope I'm not in too much trouble when the broadcast is over.
No,
Yeah,
I don't think so. I think
You'd be
you can
great, honey.
Oh, all right. Okay. I'm going to be okay. Just
great.
reassure me. Yeah.
And,
Thank you,
we
Gary.
have
Thank
more
you.
to say.
Yeah.
We have a lot more podcasting to do, and I'm
Yeah.
very excited about it. And I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Living in Clarity podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Living in Clarity podcast.
If you enjoy what you just heard, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment with any suggestions for future episodes.
We'll see you next time.